Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Semanti-Cast. It's been about a month since we last recorded, and a lot has happened to just kind of discuss and think about. And with me today, I have someone that has never, ever been on the show before.
Crazy.
You're never here, Gabe, so
I'm not.
This is Gabe. How are you doing?
I've been on none of these episodes before.
Yeah, no, never. So he's new here, so be nice to him. But yeah, how have you been, dude?
Guest.
It's not been too long since you and I have talked, but it's been a while since we've done a recording, so...
It's been good. I've been getting stuff done. Now it's like time to relax.
Yeah,
talk
I feel
about
that way
things
too.
That have happened.
The end of the year is always such a weird time, especially this year, where it's like it feels like we have so much to reflect on, but also we don't. It's so weird.
Haven't you heard that Fauci is like projecting life will be back to normal by September?
Oh,
and like since the vaccine is actually vaccine is actually starting to be pushed out, it's like pretty crazy, you know?
Yeah, I think that sounds about accurate. People have been saying summer for the longest time, like June, July, but I think September is a better bet. But yeah, that's still wow. That's like a year and a half.
It's like, frankly, you know, I don't really consider this to be the end of the year. I'm more thinking like once we hit March in a year of quarantine, that's when it's like we've hit a full year.
I feel you there, definitely, and it's kind of been more obvious too with more recent like games and films and movies that have come out that have been far more impacted by the pandemic than stuff that came out earlier. So it's just felt far more dour to me than it did near the beginning or the I won't say the middle, but than it did a few months ago, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah,
technically in scope, we're in the middle right now.
Yeah, depending. yeah, you're right. That is true. So there are a few things we want to discuss today. I think we should start with the far less like controversial one.
So you want to talk about the good topic, right?
Yeah, the one that most people are not screaming about on the internet, beside like in an angry way, if that makes sense.
You want to talk about the boy?
I think we shall. So Gabe, who was announced as Fighter 3 of the second Fighters Pass recently?
The original anime swordsman.
Is it? People say that, and I like don't know what that means because I'm dumb.
I think from the person I watched who said it's like the first like one that got popular, like the first iconic like edgy anime swordsman. You know,
I can see that.
Because you know, Final Fantasy VII was very influential in that way, especially in the West. Scope.
Yeah,
that's
true. Fair.
You know, while technically like Marth is from the NES, and you know. There are other Final Fantasy games. That's the one where it like nailed out that niche, and then everything has been following it.
That is true, actually, because Marth wasn't really well known worldwide until Melee and maybe even after, whereas Sephiroth was a gaming icon since 1977. So
like 77.
Or excuse me, 1997. Sorry, too much Cyberpunk. But yeah, I'm. Okay, general impressions of the Sephiroth reveal for you. Go.
I think it was a great trailer. Like,
I loved the trailer.
I feel like okay, I feel like I can take a pretty step back look on the trailers as a whole. You know, this is one of the better ones. You know.
Yeah, and
like Isabelle, Violet, and even Banjo were weaker trailers. Frankly,
the Isabelle trailer was so bizarre.
Yeah, but. Like, this is one of those where it has, like, the energy, and there's a bunch of, like, iconic moments that I remember.
And great animation throughout the whole thing, to be honest. Like, it looked crazy. It was awesome that, like, we got to see the DLC characters in, like, full glory, kind of, some of them.
Also, it was, like, heavy reference to Advent Children.
Yeah, it felt like heavy. I was watching Advent Children. It was crazy. Like, the end, especially, when they're clashing together, it was awesome.
Like, literally the part where Sephiroth stabs Mario through the chest it's pretty much shot for shot.
Yeah, it is actually
of Advent Children.
It is.
So that's pretty cool.
That's fun because I mean, as I've said multiple times on the show, like this year was the year I finally played Final Fantasy VII, and then I played Remake, and then I watched Advent Children. I've seen it twice now, actually, and yeah, I don't know. This was exciting, I think, but
I feel like we can make a bingo card.
That is true
about our show.
Yeah, dude,
it's just like Gabe brings up certain games. He's a hipster. Scott says he played Final Fantasy VII this year.
Yeah. What
trailer's really good.
Oh god, I messed up.
He has a He has a counter.
He does. But so was this the first like? So I know when the game was coming out, they did like a World of Light trailer or something where they're fighting. You know, it's the intro, right?
Is this the first one where they have the Gleam in the trailer? No.
I mean, for like a DLC character announcement.
Hero.
Okay.
I believe Hero featured.
See, I mostly just remember Hero running on the horse and Marth.
He came in on the horse while someone was like fighting.
Yeah, it was Marth
like
and
the shadow people from.
Yeah. Okay, you're right. Okay, so that's why it probably felt a little more familiar because I was like, when was the last time? Like, we kind of just didn't even say anything about it. We're like, oh, okay, yeah, it's World of Light, blah blah blah. But that's so well,
dude. I can't believe I got gutted twice over a Devil May Cry character.
Yeah,
because it was last Judgment
year.
Cut.
Oh god, yeah.
Gleam or whatever it's called.
Yeah, Gleam. It's Gleam and Dark.
And I was like, it's Virgil.
I mean, it kind of makes sense because Gleam kind of looks like Sephiroth's like god form, sort of.
I'll say it. I swear to God, Sephiroth's Final Smash better be 2 minutes
long.
Dude,
I tweeted about that, and I'm like, if it's not that, like
if it's not the entire 2 minute long supernova animation,
that would be amazing.
I will lose it.
I would love that so much because, like, when you're fighting him, the first time he does it, you're like, oh my god, this is insane, and then like. By the 15th time, you're like, oh god, I'm so done.
But this character means a lot for a lot of different things.
Yeah,
because like
it's the second Square Enix character.
Not only that. We already knew that Cloud was like the hardest character to get back.
Yeah.
So seeing Sephiroth here is like, okay, hold up.
Yeah.
But this is also the first DLC character from a already repped series, other than Byleth. But also, what really matters is that this is the first Final Fantasy VII, in an ironic twist of fate with how it's been represented thus far, now has the only second unique character for a third-party series. Because all that's left is Ken and Richter, and those are
they're echoes. Yeah.
Echoes.
Oh, okay.
This is the second completely new moveset with like a new stage and everything.
That is true. I didn't think about that.
So basically, what this did was this just opened up the floodgates. So now anyone is viable potentially. You know, you used to be able to, when people were like, "Oh, I want Dr. Eggman," or you know, you used to be able to be like, "Nah." They already have a character. No one has ever done that before. It won't happen.
Yeah.
But now
this has opened a lot of fun little gates. I actually, towards the end of the trailer, when it's like ending and it's them talking and it, they're just kind of standing
and the lines
there,
are ripped from Advent Children.
I thought that Zack was going to come in as an Echo fighter. I thought it was going to happen. Like, I thought it was going to be like the Richter part of the Belmonts trailer. Dude. I was like, I'm ready.
Tifa comes in.
Okay, yeah, people were talking about that too, that they would have preferred Tifa, and I kind of thought about that, and I was like, dang, I think that would have been kind of cool.
It would have been kind of cool, but like, nah, man.
Yeah,
like the most disappointing part of his character is that he has a counter in one of his states, because it looks like he has 2 states.
Yeah, oh god,
which is whoo.
Another Jonker.
Joker's fun though.
Yeah, like, I just loved the trailer, and I think it was a really fun thing to start the show with, and just in general, like,
frankly,
I didn't expect it either. Like, I kind of thought about it earlier in the year, and then I was like, they're not going to do it.
I mean, I was genuinely speechless, because I still kind of am. Like, this is the most unreal, like, a reveal has felt since Sans.
I thought you were going to say, like, Joker, but
no,
I get you.
Like, even like Joker and stuff, I saw him in game and I was like, yeah, okay, my brain functions it. But this I'm still like, I don't know how they pulled it off.
Yeah, like the strings that would have been pulled for it, I feel like something went down. Like,
how many songs?
Oh god. Okay, so I thought about this because I don't know if you've heard, but I've played the game.
Have you played the game for the first time in the year
2020? Yeah, but so I thought about it and I was like, okay, if we get 1 or 2 or 3 songs, what would they be? And I was like, obviously One Wing Angel, probably a remix, because there's the original version, the MIDI, like the one from the original game, then there's the Advent Children version, And then there's the remake version, and then they could do some kind of remix, which I doubt they'll do, because Final Fantasy VII didn't get any remixes last time, even though they played a remixed battle theme in the Cloud trailer. So that's the thing. But in this trailer, they played the Advent Children version, so they will probably get that and the MIDI version, I would think. Mm-hmm. And then I really want the Genova song in it. We could have both, maybe, but just the general like Genova theme would be sick.
Just don't give me hope, Scott.
I know.
For having the remake soundtrack in Smash Bros.
But that's the thing I was thinking about is like, what if?
Oh my God! You just mentioned it. You just mentioned it in my. Like,
I know.
I just God.
Because if Cloud is the representation for the original game, and Sephiroth could be the representation for the remake, maybe, it came out this year, it was heavily promoted, and it was, at the Game Awards and stuff, and that's when this character was announced, so I think, clearly those were not a coincidence, like, those were on purpose, obviously.
Dude, the soundtrack for the remake is so good.
It is good.
I know you aren't a fan of how it isn't actually orchestrated, but even though you've mentioned it to me multiple times, I still don't really notice it.
I feel like I need to replay the game for some reason. Like I'm trying to remember a lot about the game, and I'm thinking more of the negative moments. But then I'm like, yeah, like Tifa is really fun to play as. I loved all the different upgrades and swords and stuff like that. Like Tifa was honestly my favorite character to play as, which is kind of why when people were saying, "Oh, what if Tifa was in Smash?" That's when my brain is kind of like, oh, okay, they could do some really fun stuff with her, and she wouldn't be a sword character.
Usually, because here's the thing with sword characters, usually they're very samey.
Yeah.
Like, it's the same amount of range and, like, the same kind of deal. That's why people make fun of counters and stuff.
Yeah.
But the reason I'm good with Sephiroth is his sword is so absurdly large, and his normals are... They're offensive. Like,
yeah,
the range.
He'll be kind of like Byleth, where you kind of... Not as defensive as Byleth, but definitely very, like, poke and run kind of deal.
I've always not been a fan of, like, the tendency of the Smash player to be like, oh, it's OP!
Yeah.
But some of those normals, I'm like, that looks kind of toxic.
Yeah. And I know before the announcement, people were saying, like, how complicated will the character be, because Steve was... relatively complex. Hero had some little complexities to him, and people were wondering, like, are they going to continue that trend, sort of? And I'm kind of glad that they might not be. Like, clearly this character has another whole...
He has an install.
And so I think that's kind of
for Smash Bros, that's pretty.
Yeah.
That's, like, kind of the upper limit.
And out of all the DLC characters, at least since Joker, and Byleth, I can actually see myself playing this character in a, like, you know what I mean? Like, I actually am interested in trying to learn this character. But I don't know, because I like Cloud a lot in Ultimate, even though he's terrible. Not really. He's not as good as he should be. But I don't know. I'm excited for sure.
I am too. I think it was a really cool reveal.
I'm sure you've heard that they're doing, or Mr. Sakurai is doing a presentation later in the month, like less than a week from now, the 17th.
Oh, really? I actually didn't hear about that. I mean, I knew one would happen. I just didn't know what it was.
After the announcement, it was, I think, one of the accounts tweeted about it, but
don't have a Twitter.
Yeah. I think I'm curious because the whole other part of this is what are we getting? Besides Sephiroth and a stage and music, what else? I
mean, frankly, it's just like
costumes. What other? Dude,
what dream of mine is going to be crushed under the boot of
Mii's? Like, are we gonna get a Geno Mii costume? Like, is it gonna come back from Smash 4?
I would.
Are we gonna get Tifa and Aerith costumes?
I'll be real. That's a sacrifice that I would not be willing to sacrifice Geno for Sephiroth.
I know. I agree.
That's what I'm like. I don't even care about Geno. It's just that kind of like iconography.
Yeah.
For like we've obtained
the community
4 out of 5 of like the legendary like once.
It's true.
And then the one is just like, no, it's still a Mii costume. It's like, oh.
Yeah. Because I definitely think we'll get the Chocobo back, the brawler outfit.
I could see a couple Final Fantasy.
And then people were wondering, like, what if we just get a random one, kind of like with Sans and Cuphead and like Vault Boy or
Travis
whatever.
And
Travis.
Because like it seems like every every time there's like that one, like it's a third party, but it's a Mii costume. Like,
yeah, I felt like with the first few, it was very like Joker had only Persona Mii's, and then Hero had only Dragon Quest Mii's. It kind of felt like that for a while, and then the next few came out, and it wasn't. I don't even like. Were there any Fire Emblem ones that came with Byleth?
No, because I mean, like most Fire Emblem characters have been covered already.
Yeah,
you know? If anything, they brought back like the Lin one. But like,
yeah,
I mean, like even for like if there's like characters that you can cover through Mii costumes, I feel like they've been doing that. Because Steve had like the Creeper, and I'm fairly certain another ARMS one came through with Min Min. But like, you know, for Banjo, it's like there isn't really other characters you can do.
Right.
So
I think it would be sick. I know they won't do it because it's Square, but it would be so sick to get like a Vincent costume, a Sid costume, a Yuffie. Like I know they aren't gonna do it, but to get like the main cast,
I could see Tifa Barrett.
Okay, Tifa and Barrett.
Tifa Barrett. It'd be weird because I don't know what you'd put Aerith as.
Yeah, true. That is true. Tifa could be a brawler, obviously. Barrett
and Barrett's a gunner. His
Vincent
hand's a gun.
I guess.
Like,
Sid a brawler. Yeah, I don't know. I just want.
I want
that Yuffie representation. That's what I want. I want that. Give it to me.
I see Barrett and Tifa in maybe like a few other like Final Fantasy protagonists, sort of.
Yeah. People were thinking about that. Maybe characters like, from previous games.
I can see Titus. I can see Squall.
Dude,
you know?
Titus.
I can see Lightning. Like,
okay, I would love to get like a Final Fantasy 13 character just to see the internet complain about Final Fantasy 13 again. That'd be great.
I mean, isn't it like actually not a good game?
I mean, I've played about 7 hours of it, and it's not bad. I don't know. It's very similar to Remake, actually, in a lot of ways. 7 Remake.
I mean, like less from like, I don't know. I just remember hearing like the main complaint was like, wow, it really just tells you nothing and just expects you to read pages.
Yeah, it kind of felt that way when I was learning the game. Like you can sneak up on enemies, and it like tells you a blurb about it, and then I couldn't figure it out for the life of me. And I had to look up a video, but I don't know. I think it would be funny to get like Lightning because she's honestly pretty iconic, but I don't know.
Yes. Big Daddy Sephiroth is coming in.
And the other thing I noticed too from that trailer is Cloud's final smash against Sephiroth was different. It was like the Omni Slash version 5. And I'm wondering if that's going to be
Advent Children as well.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, so I think hey, that's another crazy thing. Now people have multiple final smashes.
Yeah, like
I
is it
think
only
likely what
different?
it is. I think likely what it's going to be is that it's on the Advent Children alts.
Oh, maybe. I didn't think about that. I thought it was going to be like Sephiroth specific, like Cloud using it on him. But that could be a thing, true.
I feel like that would take almost more work.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Because you likely the startup of it looks different as well, you know? Then it would have to like swap in and out.
Yeah.
You know, like a startup animation with like different frames and stuff.
True.
Depending on if Sephiroth is there, but what if you don't hit Sephiroth? Like,
fair.
So I think it'd be a lot easier just to do that.
Yeah. And then I also noticed, you know, in the cinematic trailer, and I know it's a cinematic one, so it doesn't really count or whatever, but Cloud's sword in his Advent Children outfit was different in the end. Like he was using a completely different sword. And I was like, wait, are they going to do any other skin? Like, I was like, what? Like, they wouldn't do that. There's no way. But
I think that's just trailer stuff.
Yeah.
But that final smash was definitely a new final smash.
Yeah, for sure. I noticed that. I was like, what? I was like so confused. I did not know how to process it. But I don't know. I think overall, the announcement's pretty cool. It makes me worried for future like Square representation in Smash because
I mean, we only have 3 characters left.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to happen in the past. Maybe. I don't know, but that's how they get you. That's how Nintendo gets you. They're like, hey, look, it's this character you wouldn't have thought about, and then you forget.
If they want to make money,
put Geno.
They would do more passes. But this is Nintendo. As everyone knows, they know how to make a game, but they are a garbage company.
Yeah, they do not know for sure. I mean, hey, if they were a garbage company, they would keep putting DLC out, wouldn't they? Theoretically.
No.
Because they want money.
I meant a garbage company in terms of they want to make money. So if they want to make money, they do this. You know, the kind of deal where it's like, Nintendo, people will pay for this. Why are you not doing it?
Right.
You
Yeah.
know?
Oh, that way I see what you mean.
That I'm thinking more of the straight thinking from the perspective
Gotcha.
of the company.
I got you.
Company. They're also a garbage company from the perspective of the consumer.
Yeah.
Just because how it is. And
yeah, I've been kind of upset with them.
Multi-millions making games for money type of deal. I mean, luckily, this isn't a defense. They're still in the negatives very much. But it's like, they're just kind of jerks.
Yeah.
You know, it isn't like other companies where it's like, wow, this is really abusive and like they're covering up for very toxic people and practicing toxic things and selling products that like aren't finished.
Right.
You know, for a profit and abusing like.
Well, actually, Animal Crossing New Horizons was actually an unfinished early access game. I can't believe they shipped it.
Like, at the very least, you know, you're getting most of the time, at least in their software.
True. You get pretty good games usually.
Yeah, their hardware.
There's a
and their online services are pretty sus this gen, but
they've been bad ever since like forever. So
at least the online was free, baby.
Yeah, you know? It was true.
But still,
feels like they're stuck in 2007. You know, sometimes
like, it feels kind of the way where it's like, yeah, it's just a company being a jerk, but it's not something where I'm like, wow, I'm like. That's morally wrong.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I can see what you mean.
They're punching down, but it's not like, you know, you hear about like, I mean, I guess this is a transition into certain heavy topics that we'll be covering today, but the Kotaku article, which argued, in which I agreed with, that Naughty Dog / Neil Druckmann should not have been nominated or won Best Director because they abused their workers using crunch time and crunch culture, I guess. I don't know. That type of work in their offices and such. They shouldn't have been nommed, you know. And I think that's like a moral wrong, you know?
Yeah. I agree.
It's like not... You know, Nintendo being like, man, we're taking down Mario Kart Wii music on YouTube is kind of small potatoes.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
Even though it sucks. Like,
the article
no defense.
in question.
I have no desire to go to bat for a corporation. Like,
yeah,
there's no reason for it, you know?
But free Melee, you know? Free Melee.
Yeah, totally.
So the article in question from Kotaku, written by Ian Walker, when I saw that, I kind of was like, like I didn't quite know what to think, and for the first time in like forever, I didn't just completely dismiss it because I disagreed with it. Like, wow, what a concept. So I read it. I was like, okay, you know what? I'm actually gonna read this, and it was a really good article. And it's actually the thing that made me say, okay, I'll buy Hades. Fuck it. So I bought it. That
made you buy Hades?
That is the thing that made me buy Hades. And so I was like, you know what? Fine. I'll buy it. I haven't played it yet, but, you know, I got to play it before the end of the year so I could play every game this year that was nominated. But anyways, it was good. And by the time I got to the end of it, I was like, you know what? That's a good point. I think it should still be eligible for other categories, but with how much murkiness was related
I mean, I agree with that. Just because the other categories are very much more like, because Best Director, it's kind of is about the like director mainly. You know, the head, the studio head who decided what other people did and how it went. I will
say that the one thing about the award that's a little weird to me is the description is more about like the actual game rather than the way it was organized and put together. And in that case, I would say maybe The Last of Us 2 is eligible for that, but like when you dig into it,
I mean, I would also say just from looking at the other games, this is getting into our own opinions on the awards for corporate people who gets to decide who gets to slap Game of the Year on their box they can sell it again for $60. Well, $70 now because you need a price hike, but apparently, so it really doesn't matter. But I don't know, man. I get why The Last of Us 2 won a lot of other awards. Like, this is my personal idea. This is my opinion. Because we know that it's by the jury of major like outlets and stuff. And typically I'm not one who agrees with major outlets. I'm very much not one who really uses them that much, so it makes sense why I might not agree with it. But but at least in terms of like, because like it was like innovation and like design and like stuff, and I'm just like, huh. The thing I remember hearing the most about The Last of Us 2, like the critique was with the story, and everyone was like, yeah, the gameplay's fine. Like, it's good.
Yeah.
It's The Last of Us.
I think it's weird because when you look at it as a sequel, I think it does pretty much everything better than the first game in a lot of ways. Like the gameplay itself, the structure, the level design, the little quality of life improvements and stuff like that. That was enough in my mind to say, hey, I think it's worthy of this award, you know?
That's like, maybe it's because we're comparing it to like the other things in it, you know?
Yeah.
You know, when it's up against like Doom and Hades and other games that I could think of, like these are like top tier, like incredibly thought out combat systems and stuff like that. And then when I see like the improvements that The Last of Us 2 made, it's like you can have a silenced pistol. I'm like, okay.
And it can break, and it can make you shit your pants.
And
when
like
it does.
you can go prone, and I'm like, okay, but we've been doing this since 2004, like with Metal Gear Solid 3 and stuff. So it's kind of like, okay.
Yeah. I think the other thing that the game did really well was its AI. Like the AI was so much better than like any Naughty Dog game. It was really impressive, I think. Like I've played the game 5 times. I will admit that I've played the game 5 times.
You really like the game, and
like each scenario, even though I played through each one 5 times and sometimes more than that because you can replay scenarios, which is awesome. It was different every time, and that was like so impressive to me because I've played the first game quite a few times as well, and it's like the AI is so exploitable. It's really easy to just honestly skip a whole bunch of them. And it's like that improvement alone was just so impressive to me. Like I love the scars and how they're designed and how their audio, they're very like sensitive to audio, whereas the WLF is far more sensitive to actions and movement. And it's just like the differences in the AI was just so like, I didn't get that with Doom Eternal. I didn't get that with Ghost of Tsushima. You know, it's like I didn't get that experience, even though those games offered other great things. I thought the AI alone was crazy good, especially since like I'm a huge fan of AI. Like ever since I played Halo and the way that the AI would interact when you killed one of their leaders or one of their underlings, like ever since then I've been like, oh my god, like I love AI in games, and that game did such a great job with it, in my opinion.
I don't know. Maybe I need to check out other people's playthroughs and stuff, because remember from what I saw, it was actually it was somewhat exploitable still.
Oh yeah, I mean it's AI in a video game.
It's like walk up.
But I've also played it on very high difficulties, which it's harder to kind of exploit them because they're more aware and stuff like that. So
true.
Plus like the dogs, I don't know, like dogs have been in games for a while. I get it.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of the thing that. But like when I looked at Doom Eternal, like, so this is like the innovation thing, and it's like, huh.
When I looked at Doom Eternal,
you see these things
as innovation, I'm just flat out gonna say I just kind of prefer 2016 just in general. I didn't like a lot of the changes they made to Doom Eternal. I get what they wanted to do to make the game harder but also more rewarding. I get it. But as a player, I didn't find it as fun. But that's just me.
I get why. Totally get why.
Like I just found the game so frustrating that I ended up saying I don't think I'm gonna finish this.
Like it's kind of,
I also got lost a lot, and I don't know if that was my fault of the games, but
I never really got lost. I get why you'd be frustrated though, because like personally, I kind of read Doom Eternal as like it's less similar to like main first-person shooter games and a lot more similar to like a hardcore action game in design and stuff.
Yeah, I can see that.
I think it's why I did it to me, because even in the FPSs I played, like they never, even on harder difficulties, which I usually play on, they never push me to do anything outside of my comfort zone.
You gotta play the Halo games. That's all I gotta say.
Like, I guess, yeah, maybe they're the exception to the rule, but like Titanfall and BioShock and even the first Doom 2016.
BioShock, really?
I haven't played that much of BioShock yet, to be fair. I know that one's very different, but like, you know, Titanfall and some of the Call of Duty stuff that I've played.
Right.
in the first Doom 2016, it's like I found the gun I liked, and then I never had to try anything else out. And
I
it was
see.
like, yeah, this
Okay,
works.
interesting.
But Doom Eternal like sets up this really good loop where it's like you need to use everything. You got to make sure you know how to use it all.
Right.
People have different weaknesses. You're switching, you're juggling ammo and health and all this. It's like it's so good. It's
and
such a
I
good
get
cycle.
all that for sure. And it's interesting. Like you've kind of made me realize more about the game that I didn't. But like for me, Doom and Halo, and I know Doom is kind of notorious for being hard, but it's like those games are far more about like the power fantasy of like being this overpowered badass. And it's like I did not feel that pretty much at all playing Eternal. I played on not the one below Ultraviolent. I can never remember the names.
Well,
but whatever.
I think you probably played on Ultraviolence because that's hard, and then Nightmare is the hardest.
Okay, I always play FPS games on the difficulty below the hardest. So
yeah, so you played on Ultraviolence, which is what I did too.
I ended up turning it down later because it was, but
it's like I don't know. I guess it's the kind of difference in how. We were talking about Last of Us.
The game's kind of like a puzzle, like the combat, kind of.
It is. It's so good.
But I just found it so hard to execute things certain ways without this, the certain attachments and whatnot. But I get that like you kind of have to mix and match. So
I was this is kind of jumping off it, but I think this is why, and I think this is a difference between you and me. But recently, I hadn't watched it yet, but I watched through our Lord and Savior's Matthew Matos's Last of Us 2 video.
A good video.
I didn't watch through it before. But what
have you seen his first one for the first game?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I've just been binging Matthew Matos's since I watched it like yesterday. But at one point he mentions that like, extroverts and introverts and stuff, some people like gain energy through being with other people and expend it when they're alone, while some people gain it when they're alone and expend it with their other people. He kind of brought up the idea that there's also like in games, there's like mechanical extroverts and introverts.
Yeah,
like some people gain energy and get more stuff out of it when they're put on stress and when they're put like you are in danger, while other people, expend it during that and gain it in the slower moments,
right,
or moments of less tension,
yeah,
and less like mechanical things.
I can see,
and that's kind of why he like brought it back to like these types of games, like the cinematic ones, don't really mesh well with certain people because they're a lot more mechanically introverted in a lot of ways. There's a lot of times where it's like you're walking and you're in slow, safe environments where it's like, oh yeah, you're hanging out with this dude, and like
the Uncharted 2 thing.
Yeah, and like and even in The Last of Us Part 2.
I know, it was popularized in Uncharted 2.
yeah, but like,
I think he even says that in the video.
Probably, but like even in the video, it shows a part where it's like, oh, you're Abby and you're in an aquarium and you're just shooting targets and like you're walking around the base.
That is something that I didn't like about the game, was it kind of re-tutorialized you as Abby, which was weird. I didn't get it, but whatever.
Anyway, moral of the story. And there's also something I also found that was crazy about it is I don't think you're a huge fan of him, but the boy Nakey Jakey, also in his Last of Us 2 video brought up his idea of goopy goblin gamer brain, which basically was in a lot more of a meme-filled way.
I've actually not seen his Last of Us video, by the way.
It's a good video, but was basically in his own kind of, humorous way, I noticed was basically the same idea of him being like, I'm a mechanical extrovert.
Yeah.
I don't have much tolerance for the moments where it's like holding your hand and letting you chill out with the guys and we're walking and talking and we're looting and we're doing all this. We're exploring the world. He's like, nah, man, I want to go do stuff. But
it's funny because I see the point, and like I definitely got very into the quote unquote mechanics of The Last of Us 2 and stuff. Like when the actual gameplay is happening and you can pretty much do whatever you want in these encounters and stuff, like that's when the game really shined to me, besides like the narrative points. So like I feel like I'm somewhere in the middle on the spectrum, but I definitely fall more on the side of like the
That's what I was
mechanical
gonna say.
extrovert, definitely.
I think I'm definitely a mechanical extrovert.
Or introvert. I meant introvert, sorry.
Yeah, I think you're definitely more of a mechanical introvert, and it's not a good or bad thing either side. There's no like weight on this.
I've never thought about this before.
Definitely very much a mechanical extrovert.
And that kind of...
And I think that's one of the reasons why Doom Eternal is kind of polarizing, because it's a mechanical extrovert game. 100%.
It feels like it, yeah.
Like a lot of action games are, Devil May Cry and Bayonetta and stuff. The type of arcadey things that you get out of stuff. And even like a lot of more indie games are a lot more mechanically extroverted.
Right. Because they nail the gameplay loop and whatnot and stuff like that.
Because when we were watching the Game Awards, and one statement that stood out to me is when it was the Back for Blood. Literally Left 4 Dead 3 by the same devs, all but name.
That's been fun to look into, the development of that game.
But when you're hanging with Shuey, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Shuey was just like, yeah, this looks like it has the gameplay loop and that's it. And like kind of a disappointed tone or disinterested tone. I was like, that's not a bad thing.
It's funny, that game actually looked pretty good.
That's like the best thing you can say about a game to me.
Yeah, fair. And it's... I think...
And I mean, not to discredit, I like quieter moments too, but it's like, in like a lot of more cinematic story-based games, it's like, yeah, I'll go through it once and I'll enjoy it, but it's not something I want to return to. So with other games, I'm like, I want to go again.
So you haven't played the first Last of Us, have you?
I have not played either, but I've played through the entirety of Uncharted.
Okay.
So I do know kind of the loop of it. Okay. It's just that Last of Us is
Do you know about the giraffe scene in the first Last of Us? That is like the quintessential, like, other than Last of Us, like the Uncharted 2 village sequence, that is like the quintessential chillax, relax moment kind of in gaming to me. Like, that is not only one of my favorite moments in a game, even though you just stand there and watch a scene and you're not even playing the game, and I know that's weird to you, but like that scene...
I like cutscenes.
I know. That scene, like, in general, is probably the most memorable thing about that game. Whereas when I think of The Last of Us 2, I think of like all these different encounters and like scenarios that you're in when you're Abby and you're in the under part of the hospital and you need to fight the Rat King, or when you're Ellie and you have this huge open area to just explore with Dina. Like I think of that far more than like cutscenes in the game, which is weird.
Really?
And that's why I think I liked the second game more, because I actually enjoyed it as a game more. Because the first game, I really liked the story and the characters, obviously. But the gameplay, in a lot of ways, especially revisiting it this year before the sequel, I was kind of like, wow, there's just a lot of hallways and like interiors and repeated rooms and pushing garbage bins around.
Pushing garbage bins and moving ladders.
Yeah.
And now you can carry a rope in the new game.
And while the encounters
rope
are
physics
decent,
are tight, though.
Dude, I messed around with those so much back when the game first came out.
Rope physics are tight. It'd just be better if they utilized it more.
Yeah, that's like in one level. I don't even think Abby has any of those ropes. But anyways,
No. Both in Matthew Matosis and Nikki Jakey, it's like, man, dude, why didn't you use the rope more?
I think Ellie has like 2 rope puzzles, but
there's like one puzzle. There's one like actual puzzle where it's like, oh, you can break some glass and then drape it through the hole.
Yeah, it's near the beginning.
Why can't I carry this around and use it as like a makeshift grappling hook in combat? You know?
And oh god, where was I going? But like, everything felt far more organic, and so that's why I really just commended it as a game on top of its narrative and how it made me feel beyond the gameplay. And I don't know, that's why I really liked the game just a lot, because there's one of the bigger criticisms of the game is that it's too long, and that by the time you get to Santa Barbara as both Ellie and Abby, you're kind of just done. Like, I don't want to play the game anymore. It's been too long. I'm in this new area. I don't care about fighting people. I don't care about. But I was still like, I really just want to keep playing the game. Like, I want to keep, fighting enemies, distracting them, running away from the dogs and letting clickers loose on them. Like, I want to keep doing that. And that's what I really liked about Last of Us 2, I think. And I didn't really think about it until this weekend, like after the awards. And I was like, okay, why did I think it should have won it? Even though, the development was hell.
Always it was about the narrative for you. I guess we never really talked about because we never really talked about the gameplay that much. Other than it's better than the first games.
The only thing that is worse gameplay wise is in the first game, right? You can pick up bricks and bottles, and they usually use them to throw them to distract enemies. But in the first game, you could use them as a melee and like one-hit melee things, especially things you can't normally one-hit melee. And that's not in the second game at all. I was so as Abby, I was so disappointed. I was like, damn it, because like my favorite thing.
It's comedic seeing someone punch zombies, though.
Yeah, true.
I've seen from.
But like you use the brick and just bash it down, and oh god, I don't think you could do it as Ellie in the first game. I don't think, but. Maybe it's because it's Ellie, but
big rough dude.
But Abby couldn't do it. 13. I was like, what? Even Abby can't do it? Whatever. But I think that article was important. I'm glad that man wrote it. And I will play Hades.
And I agree with it. I think crunch is a very bad thing. It's terrible. It's garbage. And I'm wondering, something we shouldn't accept.
Yeah. I am curious.
Especially shouldn't celebrate.
No, I kind of hate that. Like even before the game came out, I was like, damn, it sucks that like these developers making this game were like suffering in certain ways. Like I was not comfortable with that playing the game.
And there's like a certain, I hate that there's a little part of me, but I hear like it's almost like a different it's kind of strange how when it's like a one person indie project and like, yeah, man, I like poured everything I had into this and like, you know, it was super unhealthy. It's kind of almost in a way like
it's more endearing,
you know. It's kind of like, oh man, you worked really hard on it.
Yeah,
I guess it's that. Like self-induced. You know?
I can get that. Yeah,
but like
sometimes too with AAA, it can be self-induced.
And now I'm like, no, I do not agree with that anymore. Like, don't do that.
History-wise, with Naughty Dog at least. By the way, you mentioned the grappling hook mechanic. That should have been in The Last of Us 2, and it's funny because that was like one of the weaker aspects of Uncharted 4. But anyway,
true, they never like used it in cool ways.
Yeah,
you know?
It
was
true.
Like at the south end of an arena, there'll be a grapple hook.
Yeah.
I was like, dude, why can't I use this more?
Hopefully, Halo Infinite uses it well. But anyways, towards the end of development of Uncharted 4, Bruce Straley, one of the project leads on that game, he left the studio. He was like, I'm done, and he's like, I never want to make a game in the way that we made Uncharted 4. He was happy with the game. He liked working on it, kind of. But he's like, I never want to go
he's happy with what
experience.
He made, I guess.
Yeah, but he's like, it was miserable. Like, he's like, I never want to think about Uncharted 4 again. I never blah, blah, blah. He's like, I you know, if we, as a studio, if we keep making games like this, I'm done. And that was kind of what kicked off Jason Schreier's book that he wrote a few years ago called, like, Blood, Pixels, and Love or something.
Yeah. Blood, Sweat, and Pixels.
Yeah. And that's what kicked off that book, and then he wrote the article earlier this year about the crunch for Last of Us 2. And when he left, Naughty Dog was kind of like, okay, we're not going to mandate crunch and overtime. Like, you're not required to stay, you know, we're going to limit hours, blah, blah, blah. But since crunch was such a big part of that studio's culture and just how they made games, because to them it was very like, oh, I'm pouring my soul into it, blah, blah, blah. I got to stay for this game. It's that stayed and carried over into Lost Legacy and Uncharted or Last of Us 2, and it's like that's
a really self-destructive mindset.
Yeah, it's really
self-destructive.
And I really hope like if they don't with their next game, whatever it is, if they don't like pride themselves in moving on and regulating. Kind of like with Supergiant and the way they do it, like they mandate for vacation and you know paid time off. If they don't do anything related to that, that's going to be really disappointing. And it's going to be hard for me to really get into their next game.
I get like, and in that way, I get kind of the memeing of The Last of Us 2 winning and like the memeing on Neil Druckmann because like you know it gets exposed for crunch and it gets awarded and then Neil gets a promotion for it and
dude
like,
Neil looked like, so done when he won the award for best direction. He like the like sigh of relief on his, or not even the sigh of relief, but just his face and his demeanor. I was like, this dude is done.
Okay, I want to say this I went into the belly of the beast after it because I was interested
because
I heard that r/The Last of Us 2 is like a cesspool or The Last of Us, you know?
Yeah, it was I believe r/Last of Us, not, but
yeah, or whatever. But like, it was still majorly a cesspool, you know, and it
was pretty bad.
Stuff where it's like, this sucks. But you know what I found kind of respectful in it is because they in both the when it came to the innovation in accessibility, they were like, yeah, you know what? They got it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think most people can agree that was
also,
the most deserving award.
Also, they were also really respectful of Laura Bailey winning Best Performance.
Good. I actually
they were
haven't
like,
been on that
because
sub forever.
The comments were like, yeah, I hate the character, but she did a killer job at it. Like,
I mean, yeah, she made you hate the character.
yeah, they're just like, it takes a lot of skill to make me really vitriolic hate a character like that.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was like, you know what?
Fair.
Props to you, Last of Us 2. Props to you, subreddit. You don't got a lot of brownie points from me, but in that case,
yeah. God, that subreddit was a mess back when the leak happened. God, it was bad. And it sucks that Laura Bailey got so much like crap. Like, I'm glad she brought that up in her acceptance speech. And by the way, I was rewatching that clip because I didn't hear the whole thing and stuff. But when Brie Larson is announcing the award, Ashley and Laura, or excuse me, Ashley Johnson and Miss Laura Bailey, excuse me, they're not my best friends. I'm not Troy Baker, but when she announced the winners, Laura Bailey as Abby, The Last of Us Part 2, like Ashley Johnson just started freaking out, clapping for her. I thought it was adorable.
That's cool.
But anyways, I mean,
that's cool.
I think
The Last of Us
it's a good topic
to featuring Sephiroth.
Yeah, The Last of Us 2, Sephiroth DLC. When?
When is he gonna show up as Super Boss?
Last of Us 2 has gyro controls in it. Just saying. I know you're into that, so
okay.
Just saying.
I was thinking like, okay.
And actually, I was like, oh, what? Like, this is probably gonna suck. Like, not very many PS4 games use gyro controls. No, they're pretty good. Like, I replayed the whole game using them, and it was nice. It was good.
Yeah, but crunch culture is not good. Speaking of crunch culture. Cyberpunk 2077.
Hey, segue.
I'm glad the quality of the design in the game is very good. I am extremely disappointed and
it's
very
so
disgusted by the crunch culture and also the fact that they sold and intentionally tried to hide that their product was fundamentally broken and unplayable for most of their player base.
Yeah, and like obviously, especially as a company that's like touted as being very consumer friendly and very upfront and honest with the the public,
Times have changed.
It sucks that like with this game they were like, oh god, our console version is a disaster. If we give out review codes, no one's gonna buy it for console. Our largest install base, blah blah blah, and it's like, oh god. That's so lame. Like when I was seeing the PC game footage, I was like, oh, it actually, cool, looks good. And I was like, oh, I'll be playing on PS5. I probably don't have much to worry about. And
Is the PS5 version okay?
It's the PS4 Pro version.
It's PS4 and Xbox One, which is the issue.
Yeah, and like part of me really wants to like make my original PS4 suffer, but I don't. So I don't think I will. But dude, it's so lame. Like, it sucks because Witcher 3, while it had its problems,
to see them stoop to like the worst levels that people trash, especially for a company that was very much touted, as like the prodigal son,
Yeah.
After like Bethesda went down the tubes for a lot of people, and like Blizzard did,
and even Rockstar.
They were like the one. I mean, even Rockstar is like, we're disappointed in Red Dead 2. Like, well, I'm talking more on like a business level here.
Oh, then
like
Rockstar's definitely there.
Oh, are they? Okay, dude, then Rockstar too. I guess
their multiplayer games are a disaster with microtransactions and stuff.
It's a shame to see what was touted as like
the
holy one go down to the levels of the worst of it, dude. Like this is like Fallout 76 level.
And it's funny because I've been seeing people.
Especially since you can't refund the game on like PlayStation and
Sony, I
Xbox
think,
stores.
started accepting refunds. I think I saw an article but didn't read it. I saw it but I didn't read it. I think it was from Eurogamer. I think, but anyways,
that's terrible. They put out a fundamentally broken and unfinished product.
It's man, and the problem is the game is like insanely awesome. And
I'm glad that the game, like the core game, if you can play it, like here's the thing. If they were just like, we are not making PlayStation 4 Xbox One versions, you need to have next gen or whatever or PC to play it, we will gladly recoup your costs or whatever.
Yeah.
If it was that, then there would be no like bad blood, you know? It'd be like, that
maybe
sucked. But
I feel like they would have had to have done it a few years ago if that's the case.
Well, yeah, true. I'm
Or
just
a few
saying
months.
it would still be better than shipping out a broken product.
Yeah. Because
and
I mean, a
hiding
big
it.
reason they delayed the game back in November before release was because they said that they weren't happy with the console versions of the game.
This game was supposed to come out in April.
My God, I know. Oh my God, I know.
And we know that company is using crunch.
Part of me, like, as far as I know, like, they're not reliant on like a distributor or a publisher to get their game out, and so I'm wondering like what it was that made them really want to push it out before the end of the year, and I don't know, but it's a shame. Yeah, maybe. Funny. True, but I mean, spring game launches are a thing now. It's a thing.
Yeah. I mean, I'm glad the core game is a good thing. Like, you know, it would suck even more if what the people did destroy themselves over, like their physical and mental health over, was a bad piece of work, you know?
Yeah.
Like at its core. So I guess I'm kind of happy that it came out and it's like, yeah, the game itself is good if it works.
Yeah. It just sucks that like I'm like 12 hours in at this point and the game has crashed like 6 times for me.
Oh my God.
It's like, that's not great. That sucks.
The sinking of the ship.
And the worst thing about it too,
are left? What big devs are left?
I was going to bring this up. I've seen people idolizing From Software for years, and I'm just waiting for something to happen, you know?
True.
But what sucks about the game crashing too, at least on the PS4 Pro / PS5 version, whatever, is it resets your game options every time.
Oh, really?
And because the sensitivity in the game, like the camera sensitivity is so weird, I have like tweaked the settings perfectly. So that every time it crashes, I'm like, oh God, I have to reconfigure it. And it's so lame. I'm like, what is this? But
I think the difference, though, with like From Software and like Platinum and stuff is that they're not publishers. They don't self-publish their games.
You're right.
They're second party. They're just studios. You know?
Who publishes them? Bandai?
Bandai published the Dark Souls and Sekiro. And then Sony published Bloodborne and stuff.
And Demon Souls remake, yeah.
And Demon Souls. And then also, like, Platinum is heralded by Sega and Nintendo a lot of the time.
Who published Sekiro again?
Sekiro was Bandai as well.
Okay. See, I don't
so, you know, it's like a studio, so it's kind of different.
You are right, but so is Bethesda Game Studios. It's the publisher part of Bethesda that people are disappointed in.
True.
Because ZeniMax and Bethesda...
Also... I mean, I'll be real here. A lot of the time, at least with their main core, like open world RPG stuff, they put out products that how they function should be completely unacceptable.
Yeah, it's kind of similar problems as Cyberpunk, really. There are parts of the game itself I'm kind of a little disappointed in. Like, you know, the game is so touted as like the character customization and all this. You know, the memes about the penises and stuff. Like. And
I've
yet,
heard
the customization isn't as good as I expected. You can't change your appearance. You can't get haircuts. You can't grow facial hair. You know, stuff that was all in The Witcher 3. And it's little things that I like that, where it's like, it's so weird that they didn't include that.
I've also heard that you can't like change your appearance independently of your gear, so it's like if you want the good stats, you're stuck with looking like a bozo.
Yeah, I haven't really cared too much about that because I've just been wearing whatever the hell I want. But I don't know.
Yeah, I know that's definitely a feature. I've heard that the way I heard it put was like as like an open world action game. This is killer, you know?
Yeah, it definitely feels like that.
When it comes to the RPG mechanics and stuff, it needs work.
Yeah, one thing that people have talked about...
I heard the crafting, and I saw the crafting. It's, like, just broken.
I actually haven't managed to do it yet. There's a lot of... Like, one of the guns I have requires, like, 10,000 of a material, and I'm, like,
that's exactly why. Like, I don't mean broken as in, like, it's too strong, but as in, like, there is no benefit to doing this. Like, the economy towards it is just not functioning.
I have to say, I like the skill tree a lot, though. I'm into that. Yeah. I like the perks. I think they're better than Witcher 3's system, because Witcher 3's system was really weird with the way they did it. Like you could only select like 5 at a time, and there was like a budget, and it was weird. That was one of my least favorite things about the game. This seems to have improved on that, and that's kind of the general whole in a lot of ways. Is like they definitely looked at Witcher 3 and its weaknesses and its positives, and wanted to change things. And I there's so much going on. I'm like, okay, this is better. This is better. Wow, I'm glad they did this and stuff like that. But then it's like, why can't I get a haircut? Like, what?
Do you think you're going to end up liking this more than The Witcher 3 or less?
I don't know.
Or is it kind of like one of those, like, yeah, it's on the same kind of level?
It's definitely different, but you can tell it's the same developer. It's not like Bethesda where, like, Oblivion and Skyrim are very similar. Even, yes, they're the same series, I get it. And even Fallout 4 and Skyrim are very similar games. And it kind of feels like that in some aspects where it's like, but I don't know. I don't know yet. I'm digging the story. I'll say that. Like, Witcher 3's main story was good. It wasn't like amazing. Like, the best stuff in that game was the random side quests, a lot of the stuff on Skellige and the DLC. But I don't want to count that. I have heard that the writing is still on point. The writing is still good, and I'm really enjoying like all the little side characters you meet through the game, and the main quest so far, I've been almost powering through it. I've not done that in a game like this in a while, and so I'm like really happy about that. And that's cool. Like, even with Red Dead Redemption 2, as excited for the story and all that I was like, I want to go to Mexico right away. Oh, you die because you have a bounty. Oh, I want to go, blah, 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 all these things.
To Mexico.
I didn't finish the main story of that game until like May after it came out. So I was a bit late to that party. But this game, I've heard the story's shorter. So that's a thing, which I'm glad about. Thing I have heard. Because Witcher 3's story kind of took a while, and the pacing wasn't very good, especially like there's a certain big thing that happens in the game that kind of kills the pacing.
I've heard the campaign is like typical campaign length of like...
it's about 25 hours.
Was it 25?
That's what I've heard for Cyberpunk, is about 25. 25 to 30, depending.
I guess the one person I heard who was on the lower end of the spectrum.
There are people that, especially when they got review codes, because that's another thing about the game, is a lot of people didn't get review codes until later, like very close to release. So they were basically forced to rush through the game in a lot of ways to actually finish it and try to do side content. And so I think a lot of early reviewers had to push through the game, so they were able to finish the game in 15, 17
because I heard like 15.
I have not heard that at all, so that's interesting. I'm 12 hours in, and I'm probably less than halfway. I'm in Act 3, and I've heard the game is like 7 acts or so.
Okay.
But yeah.
Maybe I'm misremembering it. I might have heard something else.
The main story definitely is impressing me. It's taken a direction I really... Like, I did not really know what the story was going to be in this game. I knew it had to do with Johnny and the relationship between Johnny and V, but I had no idea what that relationship was, how they were connected. That's awesome. I'm really digging that. And it's kind of... It's definitely more thought-provoking than on a humanity level than Witcher 3, because Witcher 3 is very like everyone's fucking miserable and they hate like their life and it sucks. Whereas in this game it's very like hedonistic and like there's less nihilism in this game, funnily enough, than there is in The Witcher 3. But I'm impressed so far. I'm looking forward to the next gen version of the game. That's kind of where I will really start to like form my opinion about the game, like compared to Witcher 3, I feel like, as like a whole game, because that's when it's going to be hopefully technically better. So I don't know, but because like The Witcher 3 is obviously one of my favorite games ever, so it's like but it's not like complete crap, so
I feel on average the major
a lot of people saying it's not quite as good as what I've heard.
It's like it's fine, like,
but the other thing is like a lot of people didn't play The Witcher until later, and so like they didn't play it at launch with its bugs and problems and quest glitches and stuff.
But this is on a different level.
Yeah, you're right. I was going to say that earlier. Like Witcher 3, it had its problems, but oh my goodness, this game's way worse.
I'm good with expecting bugs at release. I get it, just because of how the business works, and I'm already not a big fan of how the whole games industry as a whole has to function.
Yeah,
just how it has to do. But like, But I expect some bugs at launch, but I expect something to work.
Like literally every time I get in a car and go fast, the game crashes, and I'm like, well, I guess I'll walk or fast travel. Like, damn.
Mm-hmm.
Fast traveling, by the way, way better than Witcher 3. Witcher 3 was yikes with fast travel, but anyways, there was like maybe 8 or 9 total fast travel points in that game, whereas this game there's like 2,000. It feels like, so I'm happy with that. The other thing is the structure of the actual like story and the game reminds me honestly more of The Witcher 2, where that game was obviously very linear. It was not the open world that Witcher 3 was, but like the way that story was told and structured and the way you went through it reminds me a lot of what this game's doing, kind of with its structure. And I've not seen a lot of people talk about that, and that's probably because not a lot of people played The Witcher 2. And like you said, this game people are saying is like an action RPG. Is that what you said, or whatever?
I said, at least from what I've heard,
action
it
open
excels
world.
at being an open world action game, but when it comes to being an RPG, it falters.
Okay, yeah, and it reminds me of Witcher 3 a lot, like in a lot of ways. But the tutorial, by the way, is completely optional, which I was not expecting. I was expecting a ton of like, here's how to scan and hack, and here's how to upgrade your weapons.
Handhold me, please.
Yeah, that is.
I don't know how
completely
to
optional, which was pretty neat. But yeah, I don't know. I want to play more of it today, but I can't because I got to go to sleep after we record this. But it's such a shame that the game's in the state it is, because it's like I just want to play it, but it crashes like every hour and a half. So
and their stock went down by a lot.
Yeah,
like,
I do feel like they've lost the brownie points that they had.
Oh, they totally
in a lot of ways.
Who's next on the chopping block?
I don't want to say From Software, but that's my.
I feel
like people idolize them so much.
They do.
They're like, they are God incarnate, like way more. I feel like than with CDPR.
It's kind of different. Like I think it does come down to the difference between being like a AA like published studio versus being like, we are the company and we make our own and publish our own games.
Yeah.
True. I think that's where, because usually when it comes down to it, it comes down to like. Also, I think it's kind of different because games by From Software versus the ones that usually the studios that come out that people don't like are much more like, much less focused on like narrative and like awe. Of like, we're pushing the graphics and we're like at the forefront of it. Like
Demon Souls remake be like.
Yeah. I mean, that wasn't by
I know, I get it, I know.
Like,
it's a joke. It's a haha.
I feel like it's kind of different. Like, yeah. I totally expect, of course, games come out.
I mean, it's funny because one of the famous things about From Software games is they run like crap, or at least they used to.
They usually do. They usually are a little bit behind like how it goes in terms of technicality, but that's kind of something that people expect of it.
Yeah.
It's not like
it's excused.
I could see it happening. But just because of the type of studio it is and their place and what is expected of them. Yeah. I feel like it's less likely.
Fair. Definitely fair. Yeah. I think that's going to be it for this week. Or this month or whatever, however often we do this. But yeah, I guess before we end, what have you been playing? Because I've been playing Cyberpunk, but like, what have you been playing?
I played through Hollow Knight again.
Oh, nice.
He's a banger.
Nice. I saw you were on a Final Fantasy X a bit.
God, earlier. The voice acting in that is... Whew, Jesus Christ.
It gets better, I promise.
How does it get better? I'm 12 hours in.
Okay, where are you in the game?
I'm like on... Did you finish it?
I'm very close.
Oh. I'm like on a road after you play Blitzball.
Okay.
For the first time.
Okay, that's where I first.
By the way, Blitzball is garbage.
I hate it.
Jesus Christ.
It's even worse on PS2. It sucks.
Like, I don't think I can think of like a least. I think that was the worst time I've had playing a game in a long time.
Oh my god! Just wait till if you ever play Final Fantasy VII, wait till you get to like the fucking snowboarding.
That's like snowboarding, though. It's like I know how to move left and right. Like
True.
Blitzball was like, what the hell?
Blitzball is regarded as the worst side activity in the series, so I
thank God it
is bad. It is.
There's no
good.
Downhill from there.
And the funny thing is it's better in the HD remake because they changed the controls, but it still sucks. God. Because I've been playing the PS2 version mainly. Mm-hmm. I got the Switch version first, but I was like, I'll play it on original hardware. And it's terrible. Everything's inverted and wonky, and the buttons are so delayed. It's terrible.
It's just incoherent, and it's like, man, I can't do anything here.
And then you have to play as Waka, and you're like, what? Oh god.
I hope I never have to. Do you ever have to do it again in the story?
I think you have to do it one more time. Required, I think. But I think everything after that is optional. I think.
Please God.
But yeah, in order to max out the sphere grid, you have to do everything Blitzball.
I do not care.
Okay, good.
I refuse.
Because that was something they fixed in 12 was the international version / the re-release was they added the sphere grid kind of again, the drop system, and they didn't tie it to side quests at all, which was different. But anyways,
thank Christ.
Yeah, Final Fantasy X, it's a pretty good game, but the Blitzball, no. I love the combat system though. I love it. It's cool. Probably my favorite in the series that I've played.
It's like
I like it better than Sevens, even though I thought Sevens was awesome.
So far, I'm like, not much depth has been unleashed, It's very much like each enemy has an answer. Yeah. And you use the right one.
It's kind of Persona-esque. Kind of, yeah. Games.
But even with Persona, there is a lot more like, I need to do... Because a lot of the depth from Persona
you need to buff and debuff.
And not buffs and debuffs, but from the fusing system. And
it's funny because Final Fantasy X actually does have a lot of debuffs and buffs compared to the other games. But to me, what made that combat system was the swapping. The fact that you could swap characters.
You can swap. That is nice.
I loved it so much. That's
Sucks awesome. Waka's racist though.
That's the point of his character.
But he's like, don't talk to them. And it's like, Jesus Christ, Waka,
dude. I like that cast a lot though. Yuna, I like Yuna a lot. Tidus is whatever.
Hopefully they grow on me a bit more.
Yeah, I felt that way early on. I was like, what? I hate this. This is bad.
I think partially it has to do with the voice acting a lot. If it wasn't fully voice acted, I'd be like, okay, you know what? I think I like this a lot more than I do.
Fair enough. I think that's going to be it, though, guys. Thanks for watching and tuning in. Let us know your thoughts about Crunch and the Game Awards and Sephiroth down below. Peace out, everyone.
Yeah.